see the clip with Nick like maybe a week ago.
And we are live. Welcome to the show, everyone. My name is Maximo, your host on this Tuesday, taking over the internet here at VodPod Media. We've had some great discussions already tonight, and we're ready to light it up a little bit more. We want to know, what does your 2024 have in store? Maybe a little less, maybe a little bit more. We hope you're striving for big things. We got a lot to talk about tonight, including the first place in the AFC, the Baltimore Ravens. Big shout out to all the Baltimore Ravens fans out there. We give you all of your props, all of your credit. And tonight we are with the famous, can we say, the famous Amos. What's up, brother? Welcome to VodPod Media. How you doing, man?
What's up, bro? I'm feeling great, man. Just ending the year great and looking forward to another great one.
All right, man. So we're going to talk a little bit about, it's funny because I learned that on January 17th, does anybody know? If you know what January 17th is, go ahead and comment right now. We want to know if you know what January 17th is. Does that ring a bell? January 17th is the day that everyone ditches their New Year's resolutions. It only takes people 17 days to give up on average. It's like National Ditch Your New Year's Resolutions Day. Now, I think about it. New Year's resolutions. I used to think, man, it's silly. Like, why do we need to do that? But I think if it has a purpose in people's lives to dedicate themselves to something new, let's go with it. If people want to, utilize a day, a new calendar year for them to strive for a little bit more to do better, let's go with it. What are your thoughts on New Year's resolutions?
I think overall it's a good thing, but my approach is every day is day one.
There you go.
Every day is January 1, and it's up to you to decide. So if for you, day one is actually January 1, cool, get started. But I take the approach like you could decide that today is January 1 and I'm starting today. So that's kind of my mentality behind it. But I think overall it is a good thing, for people to set goals, refresh for the new year. There's a lot of hype around it, but I don't know. I think you can start whenever you decide. So ultimately up to you.
That's a good point. So, I guess the message I hear from that is just start where you are, start where you can. If you need a day, if you need January 1, if you want to do it today, tomorrow, let it be your thing. And we mentioned resolutions. A lot of people make, health related New Year's resolutions. And the reason I state that is because, during this season for me, I used to work out probably like 5 days, maybe 6 days. Not every day I work out really hard, but I used to work out like 5 or 6 days, maybe 4 days. But I recognize like I'm too busy during this time of year. I got the kids, right? I'm driving around town. I'm, planning dinners and get-togethers. I have my partner. We're doing things together. Like, why don't I switch to 3 days a week, full body? Like, this is Maximo's holiday workout plan. 3 day a week, full body for the next 8 weeks. Let's see where the results go. Let's see what can happen. And so far, so good. It's been working out probably about 3 or 4 weeks in. And I have more time on my hands. So it's like, you got to do what's good for you in your schedule. Yep. People got, the other thing is that, this time of year, people are eating a lot.
Yep.
Thanksgiving. I mean, the amount of calories, does anybody know the amount of calories on average that one person consumes on Thanksgiving Day in this country? Any guesses? What do you got?
I guess 5,800.
I think it's somewhere around that. It's like 4,000, 5,000.
Okay.
Because when you factor in the pies,
yeah,
the eating and then going to sleep and then the drinking, I mean, it's a lot of food. People are eating all day. They're going to this side of the family in the morning, this side of the family at night. They got leftovers, and so people are consuming a lot of food. And so, it is hard to start your physical trend of exercise when you're eating a lot. Your body doesn't really want to move if you're eating a lot. So when people say, oh, I'll just wait till January 1.
Of course.
That's what I think is the trend. That's what I'm seeing with people.
Yeah, I think that makes sense that people fall off in the holidays because there's so much temptation, more than the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So then it's like, I'll just restart in January. You know?
Work's got a gathering. Friends are having a Friendsgiving, family. Yeah. So everyone's just eating and consuming.
Yeah. But that mentality, though, I think it's a slippery slope.
It is a slippery slope.
What do you got next? Okay, you got January. Okay. Then what? Well, there's Valentine's Day. Well, I'm going to have a cheap...
Chocolates.
I'm going to have a cheap meal then. And then what? Well, then there's even people out of college. There's spring break, And then,
oh, my gosh.
And then what's after that? April Fools, and then like there's always something else, So I try to encourage people to try to stick to it even through the holidays and make smarter choices even through it. I mean, of course, you're gonna eat with your family, you can enjoy your time with your family, but at least try to not use it as a constant excuse, because then you'll always lean on that excuse of there's always a holiday.
Yeah.
Now there's more holidays than ever.
Yeah.
And so now there's more excuses than ever to say, I'll just wait till January.
Yeah.
So I try to encourage people, but it's a dichotomy,
So let's get into that, and make no mistake about it, folks. We're not shaming anyone. We're not pointing fingers at anyone, but we are talking about health, wellness sort of focus tonight, because, wellness is a reoccurring trend and theme on this show. We're always talking about ways we can get better. The name of the show is the Maximo Show, People, Culture, Power Talks. How do we empower people? How do we leave people inspired? Well, we do that by meeting good people like yourself. So Amos, tell a little bit about, yourself to our viewers, those folks that don't know you yet. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Amos Lozano. I was born and raised right here in San Antonio, Texas. I graduated from Madison High School, where I played football. Been an athlete my whole life. So when I was 5 years old, I did my first back handspring. I don't know if you know what that is. You ever done any flips in gymnastics or anything like that? I
haven't, but I'm almost there.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad to get you there. So when I was 5, I kind of dabbled, then got into gymnastics formally, and then got into football when I was 8, and then that just dominated my life. I became obsessed with football. So from 8 to 18 till I graduated, just weight training, sprints, everything that comes with being a football athlete. After graduating, I was just lost, because football was my obsession. It became my identity. And being a smaller guy, I didn't get any offers from colleges, although I had good stats I played with a lot of D1 guys like Aaron Green, Andrew Green, good friends of mine still, that some of them went to play in the league. And I had similar numbers to these guys, but I'm a smaller guy. So naturally, scouts, they don't want the small guy. So then I graduate and I'm like, well, now what? For 10 years, my life was football. Mm-hmm. My life was training. I woke up and that was everything for me, even in the off season. So then kind of had a little bit of an identity crisis, and I started, I just attached to the closest thing to that lifestyle, which is just weight training and weightlifting. Started bodybuilding, lifting really heavy, but I did that for about 2 years. And eating a bunch of junk, just eating as many calories as I could to get as big as I could, taking a bunch of supplements. I was kind of like that stereotypical like gym rat.
The bro.
Supplement junkie. Yup, the bro. Like I was about 30 pounds bigger than I am now. And that left me broken physically.
Wow.
And then emotionally and then spiritually. And so I had like a health crisis in 2013 where I had these widespread muscle spasms spread through my whole body, basically halted my life. Couldn't lift, couldn't do anything, which was really difficult for me. Being an athlete my whole life, my outlet when I was going through something was to go to the gym.
Yeah.
And I was going through something, but the one thing that would help me, the gym, was the one thing that would make it worse.
Yeah.
So it was super difficult. It almost was like being a prison in my own body. I couldn't express myself the way I loved to. And that led to some depression and just lost, and then I discovered juicing and yoga and meditation and slowing down my life, and the complete opposite, right? The old me was like, no, bro, like that's, yoga's for girls. I'm not going to stretch. I don't need to warm up. It's all about lifting heavy and eating meat and like just the whole stereotype. It was if I'm being honest, it was like toxic masculinity, right?
Uh-oh.
I think that word gets thrown around a lot, but for me, it truly was. There are instances when people label things toxic masculinity when it really isn't. But in this case, I did have a lot of toxic like mindset that I was able to remedy. And so through juicing, I was able to just transform my health, which led to starting my juicing company. And that's a little bit about me. After that, I was able to just heal and repair and started doing a lot of stretching and yoga, getting back to my roots, which was gymnastics and handstands and tumbling, and got into rock climbing where I met now my wife, and then got into parkour and a Ninja Warrior. I competed in American Ninja Warrior in 2017. And then from there, now I just always try to challenge myself.
And you said a whole lot there, and that's a word. Well,
Yeah.
Listen, congratulations on all of that, because You know, I heard a lot in what you just told me, you know, finding yourself, losing yourself, coming back to yourself again. You know, I'm a big fan of yoga myself. One of the things I like about yoga is you can do it anywhere with no equipment, you know, at any time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a practice with yourself, you know, meditative, spiritual. And so there's a lot to be said about, you know, yoga. I've heard from certain men, because you talk about toxic masculinity, which we've talked about a lot on this show, you know, men believing that yoga is for women only. Yeah. And I mean, like, look, folks, I mean, that's untrue, you know, so anyone can practice yoga. It's interesting that, you know, certain men would believe that to be, you know, I don't know, feminine or I don't know. I've tried to take my mind away from that sort of thought.
Yeah. No, I think I know why. Because I thought a lot about that. It's because there's a lot of poses in yoga that make you feel vulnerable.
Okay.
And they're feminine, you know? So there's certain positions that a man just doesn't feel comfortable in, and it's because you're exposing yourself. You know what I mean? In certain ways that men don't usually express themselves, especially in public around other people. Yeah. So if you're taking a class and you're doing, you know, a lot of guys have an issue with just doing something like the splits.
Cat-cow.
Oh, yeah, cat-cow, another one, right? Just arching your back. What's that? What?
Yeah.
Right? What's wrong with that?
Upward dog, downward dog.
I think what it is this sense of vulnerability, and for whatever reason, some men aren't comfortable with being in literally a vulnerable physical position. You know, even though you're in a safe place, I think that's what it is. At least I think that's what it was for me.
Well, the other thing is, I think that many of men I have heard believe that yoga is not difficult enough for them because they're into lifting weights. They believe in the stereotypical, like the bro thing that you talked about. And listen, if you're a bro watching this right now, no offense to you, but take a yoga class.
For sure.
Try yoga. I mean, it is an incredible experience.
Yeah.
When you are in a yoga class and you look over and see a 55-year-old woman doing a handstand out of nowhere, you're like, what the heck? Where am I right now? Right? This is incredible. You know, yoga is on another level, you know, power yoga, any yoga.
Yeah. Well, there's different styles.
Correct.
Like, I graduated from San Antonio College here, and I took a yoga class there. And that was kind of my first formal exposure to yoga. Before that, I just kind of watched YouTube and stuff like that. But the style of yoga that I learned there was called Hatha yoga. And it's very calming. It's very slow. It's very relaxing. And then that's what I thought yoga was only, right? And it was great though. I needed that. I needed that slow, calming, like state, because I was very like, you know, just go hard in the gym, lift heavy, and just go hard, you know? So I needed the opposite to balance me out. And then I went to some local yoga classes like Ashtanga yoga, power yoga, or what's this other one? Bikram yoga. Mm-hmm. And these are a lot more intense, or they can be. It depends on the instructor.
Yeah, there's intensity and stillness. You know?
For sure.
Intensity and like quick movements.
Definitely. But some of those, like Bikram yoga, is very like, it's almost militant. It's like the pace is like this.
Boot camp.
Yeah. And you're striking a pose and you're squeezing and you're doing this, versus other ones are very relaxing and calming. And so it depends on the style, but there definitely are poses and styles that are difficult for anyone. You know, even I've been doing yoga for many years now, and it's still challenging to me. Yeah. That's what it's about. It doesn't matter what you do, whether it's running or lifting or whatever. You just have to do whatever challenges you at your fitness level.
Well, what you know, part of it, what draws it to me, and there's a lot of things about yoga, and you know, we're kind of freestyling right now, talking about a lot of different things with Amos tonight. Here at the Maximo Show. Welcome if you're tuning in. Give us a like, give us a comment, give us a share. You know, I spoke recently when I was interviewed about Native American Heritage Month, coming off Hispanic Heritage Month. I talked about, you know, our people being deeply spiritual people. Mm-hmm. You know, we are spiritual people. We've practiced spiritual, you know, practices all of our life. They've been passed down to us from generations. You know, we may not be able to speak on every single aspect of them formally, but we know what's good, right? We know the practices in our household, you know, just regular customs and traditions that we practice. But there is a sacred relationship between spirituality and movement.
For sure.
And yoga is one that outwardly expresses that. Mm-hmm. Now, I believe there's spirituality in all things like running, you know, lifting, climbing, swimming. Mm-hmm. You know, and I believe you've tapped into that as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think movement is a form of meditation. It's also a form of medicine. And so for me, I realized that what I really loved about football and really in like gymnastics, everything that I had done, I realized that what I loved is just movement, just expressing my body through movement.
Yeah.
And whether that was catching a football or doing a handstand or a backflip. And then I started looking into other forms of movement and more abstract forms of movement like animal flow and crawls and climbing and more foundational movements. So what those are just basically back to our roots, right? Like squatting. And I don't mean squatting like with a barbell, just sitting and resting in a squat position.
Yeah.
Many people cannot do that comfortably. It's because their hips are so tight. But that's a natural human movement. For thousands of years, humans, if we were having a conversation, we'd be sitting in a squat around a fire. We were eating, we'd be sitting in a squat. Before the invention of chairs, we'd be sitting in a squat.
Yeah.
We'd be hanging, swinging from our arms. That's primarily what shoulders are built for, is for swinging.
Yeah, and
we
our
come
hands,
from
right? The grips.
the grip, right?
Yeah.
Running, another foundational movement, just steady running. So a lot of these just like basic human movements I started to really focus on, and those helped repair a lot of the damage I had done through just the hardcore lifting and things I had done. So yeah, most definitely. And then running, endurance running, which we talked a little bit about since I got into that recently, has been profoundly spiritual and meditative.
Man.
It's particularly on very long runs. Unfortunately, for me, it takes a very 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hour long run. I get into this very deep mental, spiritual place. And so it definitely is a spiritual practice. Every time that you express movement, you can be a lot more intentional with that. And I think a lot of people aren't. They're a little bit disconnected from that. It's purely physical, right? Their intention is purely superficial, but you can put an intention behind your movement practice, regardless of the style of movement, that can make it a spiritual practice as well as a physical practice.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned all of that because, I think our audience, the people that watch this show, it's a very woke audience. People that are woke on a lot of different levels. I mean, they're talking about politics. They're talking about, capitalism. They're talking about forms of oppression. Those are the topics on the mind of the people that are watching this show. They're thinking, should I run for office tomorrow? Should I pick up, all of my belongings and move across the country and start a new life? It's people that are looking for things. It's people that are very aware of things that are going on. And I think sometimes some people think, well, Maximo, you're an intelligent guy. Why are you always talking about exercise? Mm-hmm. But you spoke to that and you mentioned that movement is a form of medicine. Mm-hmm. And I don't know anybody that doesn't like to move in some form or fashion. Mm-hmm. Everyone's got their thing. Mm-hmm. Now, some of our people like to dance, right? Some of our people like to do like cartwheels, like you mentioned, in like gymnastics. Now, they may not consider themselves athletes or people that are into exercise, but our people like some form of they respond to that. It wakes their body up. It makes them feel good.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Makes them feel alive.
Yeah. And I think that is something that everyone can do. Everyone can tap into to feel better. And when you feel better, you start thinking better. Definitely. You start treating others better. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we can all do. Mm-hmm. One thing about the holiday season, I noticed like people tend to be a little bit more cheerful. Yeah. A little bit more festive, a little bit more joyful. It could be fake. I don't know. But I know, don't you notice like people are like quicker to say, excuse me, hopefully, or they're like earlier today I was at the store and I sneezed and the lady was like, bless you. And she was quick. Yeah. And I was like, hey, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people kind of go out of their way to be a little more...
They tend to.
Yeah.
Not 100% of the time.
Yeah. But in the holiday season, it brings that spirit out.
Why can't we do that all the time is my question.
We definitely can. But I think
But why don't people, I guess, is the question.
I think it's a cultural thing, and we're in the middle of a cultural shift that's up to each of us. Like, I have to do that. You have to do that. Like, we each as individuals have to do that year round, which I think I try to do. And then by doing that, we set an example for our kids, our partner, our friends, our immediate circle.
Yeah.
And then that's how it ends up being not just in the holidays.
Yeah. Because life is hard, man. It's not easy by any means.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned being an entrepreneur, challenging yourself, doing difficult things, being a good father. Life is hard,
Mm-hmm.
by all means, because of the things we're up against, cost of living, vehicle problems, sharing community and space with other people that don't have the same views as us, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that are stacked up against us,
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people that struggle in their workplace. They're unhappy at their work for whatever reason, and life is difficult. They don't wake, they wake up and they feel like they hate their lives, you know what I mean? And so I try to be as encouraging as possible, but I think it comes from, I keep myself in a good place.
Mm-hmm.
Try to keep my mind in a good spot, and exercise is absolutely a part of that.
For sure. Yeah. Like you mentioned, life is hard, and hard is relative. What's hard for me may not be hard for you, and vice versa. But at the same time, something I think about, and this actually taps back into something you mentioned with Native American culture. And I have a lot of Native American in my blood. And something that drives me on these long runs is thinking about, yes, life is hard, right, for all of us in our own ways, but also it's the easiest it's ever been.
That's true too.
So compared to the struggles and the hardships that our ancestors had, for instance, like the Native American ancestors, you had to run. They literally had to run and hunt their food, or they don't eat. They had a whole different level of hardship. And so I actually made a video on one of my long runs because I was just running, got into this meditative state and had this sort of epiphany. I have a lot of epiphanies on long runs.
Yeah.
But one of them was, it was in the middle of summer, to give you context. Middle of summer, I was on a 10-mile run. It's like 105 degrees in June, and I'm just dying, right? And I'm like, how am I going to get through this? I'm like 4 miles in, and I got 6 more miles to go, and I'm just dying. I'm like, how do I get through this? And something just popped in my head, and it was like, tap into your ancestral strength. And I was like, what does that mean? So there's like this dialogue that happens in runs. And it was like, well, what that means is this is what your ancestors did every day.
Yeah.
This was just a part of life. This was a day in the life for your ancestors in the summer. This is just one training day for you. You're going to go in the air conditioner after this, go take a nice shower. You're going to be in a nice bed with your kids, nice and comfortable.
Get a great meal.
Yeah, right? Like you go to HEB.
That's been prepared for you.
Yeah. So it was like, tap into that ancestral strength that lives within your DNA, within your blood. And then the other thing that came to my mind was, without putting myself through that 10-mile, 105-degree heat, I would have never gotten to that place where I could tap that strength, because I wouldn't be challenged enough. As hard as life is, it's not hard enough to bring out the best in you. Yeah. And so that's part of why I constantly challenge myself. But I think there's a way that we can, yes, life is hard, and we can recognize that. But by doing things that are difficult, we raise our standard of what is hard, making life a little bit easier. Doesn't make it easy, but it can make it a little bit easier.
Yeah. So there you have it, folks. Amos lays out the keys to success for your 2024. How are you going to get better next year, folks? And that's a personal challenge. I hate to see talent and potential wasted. And we see a lot of our people, man, they leave it on the table. Mm-hmm. I want to go all out every day. I want to be the best that I can potentially be, and a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Maybe that inspires my children. Maybe it inspires somebody else. I think we all have greatness within inside of us.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. Everybody. The problem is effort. Like it's people don't challenge themselves anymore. Yeah. And this is why I do the things that I do. Like I attempt these ultra runs to show people, like, yeah, maybe you can't run 30 miles or 100 miles, but you could run 5. Yeah. If I can run 75 miles, and I thought I could never run more than 10, then you could definitely run at least 5. So it's the standard just goes so beyond, right? Shoot for the moon, you'll land in the stars if you fall short. Yeah. It's kind of the mentality, right? And then once you're in the stars, it shows other people, like, wow, like he attempted it, maybe you failed, but you're still so far beyond what the standard was. And so that's a big reason why I do the things that I do too, is to show people, like, you're capable of so much more. Yeah. Like by me showing you what that I'm capable of more than I thought I was capable of, it also shows that there's something in you that you could do more of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's well said. And so, again, folks, I mean, what's good? What's on the table? Think about some of those things that you may have always wanted to do with your life, right? Whether it's, professionally, personally, something with your family, in your community, personal goals. What personal goals have you set for yourself? I think there's a lot riding on a lot of things in 2024. And so, I'm looking forward to seeing what's to come. And again, it's like you said, we don't need a year personally, but a lot of people think, new year, new me, right? And if that's what it takes, hey, let's see it. We wish everybody the best.
Of course.
We're cheering for everybody. We think everybody can win here. There ain't no haters at this table over here and these chairs on these mics, folks. So if you're watching this, let us know what you're going for. Inspire somebody. You never know who you're inspiring with your actions, with your thoughts. So keep it good. Keep it 100,
Yeah, bro, that's what it's about. I think the world would be a better place if more people were inspired.
Yeah. And so we're talking, pie in the sky, right? We're talking about what we would wish, but let's talk about what is. Let's talk a little bit about your juice company.
Yeah.
So tell us about, again, you preluded, how you stumbled into this, but tell us a little bit more about the genesis of the company, what you're doing now, what the product looks like, and so on.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So, after I got into juicing, like I described a minute ago, I did a series of juice fasts where you just drink juice. You ever done a juice fast or heard of it?
But I've done some juicing.
Yeah. So I did 3-day fast, 7-day fast, and then I did a 21-day juice fast, and I did yoga and meditation every day. That was completely transformative, completely transformed me from that gym bro to the person I am now, which is a 9-day, completely different dude, for the better. And at that point, it was that was 2014, and I still had no intentions of starting a juice company, but I put that experience out onto Facebook and had a bunch of people calling me and messaging me and asking me like, dude, what are you doing? You look amazing. Like I had lost 25 pounds that I didn't think I had 25 pounds to lose because I was big and I was muscular and I was pretty lean though. So I wasn't fat. But I slimmed out even more. Your body will hold toxins in your muscles and throughout your body. And it's one of the things that I experienced. And so my face got a lot more slender, made me look a lot younger. And people were just asking like, dude, you look great. You look amazing. What are you doing? We want that. Whatever it is you did, people wanted that. And so people would come over to my parents' house at the time I was living with my parents and just to learn, what is juicing? What did you do? How do you do it? And I had literally close to 50 people within a month coming over like every day. And one of these people I don't even remember who it was at what point, they just threw out like, I want to do this, but I don't want to go buy a juicer. I don't want to go buy the produce. I don't want to do the work. And you're juicing every day. So could you just make some extra for me? And
Sure.
I'll pay you for them. And I've always been entrepreneurial since I was in 5th grade. I kind of got an entrepreneur bug, and I didn't really know it by that term at the time. All I knew was I knew how to calculate a profit. And so I was like, well, I could help people with providing them with juice. So I literally had $29 in my wallet, and I made a YouTube video, still on YouTube to this day. And I basically said, look, I got these $29. I'm going to go buy a bunch of produce with it. I could make maybe 10, 12 juices with this, and they're for sale. So if you want to buy juices, I'm starting to sell juices, I guess. And so that's how it started. So $29 from my parents' kitchen. And for about 2 years, I started selling just juice in mason jars. Then I started selling out of the rock climbing gym I mentioned. It's called The District over off Broadway. It was the first and only rock climbing gym at the time. And then that's when things started really taking off. Discovered that what I was doing was technically illegal. You can't make raw juice or any raw product in your home and sell it because of just there's health and safety reasons. So I was like, okay, I need a commercial kitchen so I can make this legit. And I started looking for commercial kitchens, discovered a co-op kitchen in a vegan like snack store that had just opened on the northeast side off Wetmore Road near the airport. So I went there, moved in there and operated for, I think I was there for about 3 years. and just learning how to run a store, learning business, because I had no business experience, no business degree, nobody in my immediate circle that could mentor me on how to run, and started out as I went, and started with what I got. And so just learned, made a lot of mistakes, fell forward, fell fast, became, big components of my journey to this day. And then I outgrew that space when I finally hit a benchmark goal of mine that I had set, which was getting in this commercial juicer. It's a $25,000 commercial juicer, and it was just too big for the kitchen. The kitchen was literally half of this room, and I was sharing it with 3 other people. So there was no way that was going to work. Moved to my own kitchen space, and then I actually temporarily closed the company for a year when I launched a hemp company, which is a whole nother side story. It's like CBD and hemp apparel. And that started taking off, and I didn't have the energy to run both. So then that brings us to the end of 2019. The woman that I had been in that co-op space, that vegan snack store, she ended up closing her doors, and a different guy in the vegan community was like, hey, we should relaunch the juice company. I'll start like a sandwich company in there. Like, let's take over the lease. So I was like, all right, let's do it. I think I'm ready to relaunch the juice brand. So this is beginning of 2020. We had a grand opening March 1st, and we had to shut down March 31st because of the COVID shutdowns. So that was tough. 2021, I split from that guy because it ended up just not being a good partnership for me. Our styles were not a good fit. So once I split from there, I was then left again without a space, without a home for Famous Juice. And so I was like, okay, either at this crossroads, I'm either going to close the company for good, forever, or I'm going to do something I've never done before, which is take on investment money with investors, raise some money, and execute the vision that I have for this brand fully, and scale this thing up. And so I decided that that's what I was going to do, because when I reflected on like, okay, let me project 30 years forward.
Yeah.
If I didn't do that, how do I feel about that? And it was regret. And I was like, okay, then I got to go do it. Even if it fails, I got to know that it didn't work out, So that's what I decided to do. 2021, we built our first location. It was built out of hempcrete. You ever heard of hempcrete?
Mm-mm.
So hempcrete is a sustainable building material using the hemp fibers, which is a form of cannabis. So a lot of people don't know that you can build houses out of cannabis, as well as clothing. Like these jeans I'm wearing are made out of hemp, cannabis hemp. So we built a building out of hemp, turned it into a juice bar. That was my first standalone location. And then earlier this year, we opened our second location inside of LA Fitness. And then we've got 2 more lined up for next year inside of gyms. Wow. And so what we do is we sell juice, raw juice, fruit and vegetable juice, no sugar, no water, no preservatives, literally just fruits and vegetables. So like, for instance, our most popular one is pineapple, spinach, cilantro, and did I say pineapple?
Yeah.
Turmeric. Yeah. And cucumber. And that's all that's in there. And then we also do smoothies with protein, and we do acai bowls. And that's what we sell in the gym. So helping people recover, helping people fuel through their workouts. It's a big part of health and wellness and fitness that often gets thrown by the wayside. People put a lot of emphasis on the lifting and in the workout routine, but then not enough emphasis on the recovery routine. So like one of the things we say is work hard, recover harder. And so that's what we're about, is supporting people in the recovery process with nutritional products. So that's the short version of the story.
With all the detours and stumbling blocks, I'm sure. But it sounds like you're on the right track. It sounds like you all are successful by all means. So congratulations, because, again, people talk about having their own business. People talk about the glamorous life of entrepreneurship. And if anybody's been an entrepreneur, it's far from always glamorous,
For sure.
A lot of hard work. And so, y'all are on the right track. Y'all are doing the right thing. So congratulations on that. Let me ask you this. When you were making the juices initially, and I'm jumping into the beginning of your story, you started making juices out of your parents' home. Did you know the ingredients? Did you know what you were doing, or did you just trial and error? Did you have recipes? Did someone tell you these?
No, yeah, a lot of trial and error. So yeah, I made a lot of terrible juices in the beginning, and I just would try recipes on the internet, Pinterest. I got a lot of recipes from Pinterest. And then from there, what I did was just tweak and customize them. And so through that process, I got really good at formulating recipes. So like now you could throw a bunch of fruits and vegetables in front of me. I can make you a juice in the first time. It's going to be great. And I've done that many times. And so no, it was a trial and error process. It wasn't just day one I made these delicious recipes. And then even then when I started selling them, I was only selling 2 juices. So I got total of 6 that we sell. Now I like a simple menu, and 3 of them go by the names of Famous Green, Famous Red, Famous Orange. So I started with just Famous Green and Famous Red, a red and a green juice. And in the beginning, I made those very vegetable dominant, because the whole point of juicing, people often make this mistake when they get into juicing, where they throw a bunch of fruit in there. It tastes great. Of course it tastes great. It's got a bunch of fruit sugar in there. And although fruit sugar isn't inherently bad, when you remove the fiber, then it can be problematic, because all that sugar is going to spike your insulin, which causes a cascade of problems, including fat storage, as well as could make you pre-diabetic. And so people think they're doing something healthy when they're juicing apples, oranges, pineapples, maybe a little bit of some greens, but it's predominantly fruit juice. That's not the point of juicing. The point of juicing is to get more vegetables in your diet, and you use the fruit just to mask the flavor of the vegetables that maybe you don't like so much. Yeah. And particularly vegetables that you don't eat. So for me, I didn't eat a lot of kale, and I didn't eat beets, but I juice beets all the time. And so that's a way for me to get those nutrients and those vegetables that I don't normally cook and consume. And so that's the point. So in the beginning, I made the juices the way I would make them for myself, which when you start juicing regularly, your taste buds change. Yeah. And your tolerance to sugar and sweetness changes. And so what is sweet to me is probably bitter to most people. And so I was making juices that were predominantly vegetables, and then I had to kind of test it out with people, and let people try it. And it was a mixed sort of feedback. And I realized, okay, I need to add a little bit more fruit to make it palatable for the average person that just walks in the door, And so I had to tweak and learn. That's what entrepreneurship is. It's just a lot of learning. Nobody ever just nails it the first time. Yeah. Right now I'm kind of, it's related, but off topic a little bit. I'm reading Elon Musk's recent biography that just came out. And, arguably the most successful entrepreneur in the world. He's the richest dude in the world. So if you want to go by that metric, you could say that, right? He has failed crazy amounts of time on a scale that's almost unfathomable. Yeah. But through those failures and overcoming those failures is what brought him his success. And so that's really what entrepreneurship is. It's having the courage to try, to fail, and try again, and keep going. Yeah. And it's just rinse and repeat. Keep it moving.
Well, that speaks to the point of, the New Year's resolution, and January 17th being the day that nationally people have coined as dropping your resolutions. I mean, look, folks, it takes more than 17 days to find success. It takes more than 17 days to change your life. It is a slow process. I mean, nothing is going to be given to anyone easily. Mm-hmm. Nothing that's worth really doing and having. Sure. It takes time. You and I have both talked about being in relationships and partners. A relationship is constant work. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be difficult work. It can be a good form of work, but it's not just over and done after 17 days. Yeah. It's a constant work, as a business is, as your health is. It is a constant thing with your lifestyle that you have to work at, folks. So if you try and fail, don't let that discourage you from trying and succeeding again and again and again. Mm-hmm. I think you also, I don't know if you want to talk about your ultra experience recently, about trying, failing, finding success. I mean, all of that.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. So I recently attempted to run my first 100-mile race, and I failed at 75 miles.
Which is still an incredible feat to run 75 consecutive miles
For sure.
You know,
Yeah,
for the longest you've ever ran.
most definitely, by far. Going into that, the longest I had ran was 33 miles. So more than double the most I had ever ran. And then, like I was telling you earlier, the most I had ever ran before this year was 10 miles, and that was one time. And I never liked running, you know. And like I told you also, if you would have told me or asked me this time last year if I would ever run a marathon, I would say, hell no, I don't want to run. No, why would I do that?
Yeah.
You know, I've never really had interest in endurance running. But then it kind of just got sparked, you know, through the spiritual and the mental, I guess, like, challenge. That's what really, like, kind of got me interested in it. But although that was technically a failure, right? I didn't hit my goal of 100 miles. It was still in that process, in the journey of trying to get there. For instance, on my Strava app where I track all my runs, you know, it had my end of the year stats and all that. I had 84 personal records this year that I wouldn't have had if I didn't attempt that. So those are 84 wins. Although the big one was a loss, technically, I still had a lot of wins. And 75 miles was still a huge win.
Yeah.
And so there's a, like I mentioned, life and leadership is a dichotomy of learning when to be hard on yourself and when to challenge yourself and when to give yourself some grace.
There you go.
And it's a challenge, but you got to learn that, and it's a discovery process.
You speaking on it, man. I often dissect, you know, sort of case studies and examples of leadership. And one of the things I always, you know, harp on with leaders, myself, others, is giving others grace.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that is a profound characteristic of a leader, is to give grace. It's not something that people can do easily. Mm-hmm. You have to learn and train your mind and think about it and think of the greater good and the moral victories within the longer goals and races and victories that you're striving for. But giving grace, you know, to ourselves, you know, again, we're talking about fitness, you know, look, if you want to we talked about cheat meals. If you want to take a day out of the week and, you know, eat ice cream and drink wine, give yourself that grace. Mm-hmm. Give yourself that grace. And then the next day, go out and do what you need to handle your business. You know, mm-hmm. I often tell people, you know, in a world that's really, in some ways, you know, we're judged by how much we can produce, you know, with our goals, with how much money we can, you know, make, and our levels, our characteristics of success is, you know, I always take one day out of the week where I do nothing, you know, and that's what I give myself out of all the other days when I'm stuck in the rat race. I'm doing all the things I need to do to provide for myself, to make a living, to do, you know, feed my family, all those things. I give myself one day to have a lounge day, to chill, not answer my phone, you know, not worry about goals and deadlines, because I want to give myself that grace too. And I think, you know, we deserve that. We need some time to just, you know, have some self-care.
Yeah. You deserve it if you deserve it. Yeah. And what I mean by that is if you've been putting in the work, you've been challenging yourself, you've been pushing yourself, and it doesn't have to be a lot. You know, this is getting popular, the 1% better. You know, as long as you were doing that, yeah, go ahead and give yourself some grace. But if you were slacking all week, do you really deserve it? You know, so there again is the dichotomy. Yeah. When do you deserve the day and when don't you? And being able to determine, you know, you mentioned profound leadership trait is giving grace, and I agree. But an even more profound one, I think, is knowing when to give the grace. Yeah. Because there's certain times, and there are times when you give too much, and then people get comfortable and they get complacent and they take advantage. And so that, again, is the dichotomy. I bring that up because a really good leadership book I read is The Dichotomy of Leadership by Jocko Willink. And that's a big one of the biggest challenges of being a leader is knowing when to, you know, be more hands-on on your team versus giving them more independence. And that awareness is one of the biggest challenges, because you can't just be, you know, just super tight on your people, but you also can't just let them do whatever. Yeah. Both are problematic, and you have to know when, and that's difficult. And it's something I'm learning, you know, now that I have a team, which was something that the first few years before I got to the point of raising capital and all that is really just me, you know, for about 6 years. it was really just me. I mentioned I had to close the juice company when I launched my hemp company. And the reason was because I didn't have a team. And I can't be two places at once. I only have so much energy. I only have so much time in the day. And I realized that one of the mistakes I had made was not building a team. And then in the journey of trying to build a team, I realized they need systems and they need procedures and they need guidance. And then once you instill those systems, then when do you back off? So this is in my journey where I'm at, where I'm learning how to lead a team, when to be tighter on them and harder on them, and when to give them more grace. And that's both for yourself and for other people. And you have to really be intentional in cultivating the awareness in that.
And then even further, how you determine and how you know when to give that grace is you got to know your stuff. You got to know your business. You got to know your people. You got to know yourself.
For sure.
One of the other things we talk about often is communication. How we communicate. It's, what we said, what someone heard, and then how that was regurgitated back into, so-and-so. Someone's going to watch this and say, well, Maximo said this, and I may not have said that. But someone believes or they felt that way based on how it was communicated. Oh, you said this, Max. Well, no, I didn't actually say that. But no, you meant that. I know you meant that. Well, I don't know that I meant that. But I mean, that's, the level of perception that people have and that I maybe have. Now, maybe something I said with my body language, how it was communicated had the connotation of what someone else believed. So like, how are we doing this dance here? You know what I mean? It's a very careful dance, and sometimes we step on each other's toes, Well,
that's why there's so few great leaders.
I'm telling you.
Because of that. Like it's such a difficult thing. Like it's one thing to be in a position of leadership, but it's a whole nother thing to actually be a great leader, which is, it doesn't matter. The title's irrelevant. Leadership isn't a title. It's influence, nothing less and nothing more. But that's a difficult thing, right? Like to determine, because like you mentioned, different people interpret things differently.
Oh my gosh.
So you might say one message to your group of 10, team, and it means 10 different things to all 10 people. And some people might need you to be harder on them, and that brings out the best in them, while the other guy over here needs a little more, he needs a little more coddling, and that brings out the best in him. And that's part of what makes it really difficult to be a great leader.
Man, I'm telling you. So I'm like, and we're getting ready to wrap the show, folks. We got about 5-10 more minutes or so. But, I'm a guy who loves people. Like I love them, man, for better or for worse. The good people, the bad people, all the things in between, the things people have done. To me, it's irrelevant. To me, it's like everyone's good. We might have messed up. We might have made mistakes. But, I know I've met so many people and I've bonded with so many people that I see the good in people. And because of that, nothing really surprises me. Like if someone's like, oh my gosh, did you see what so-and-so did? I'm like, it doesn't surprise me. Just because I get people and their mindset and, how they think and what just things that they justify, because I just know people. Like if someone were to tell me, so-and-so robbed a bank the other day, I'd probably be like, man, that's messed up, but it doesn't surprise me because when people don't have options, when people are starving, when people feel like they've got no other options, that all they can do is rob a bank, it doesn't surprise me. It does. And, I say that I don't, I hope no one thinks that I'm justifying bank robbery. It's a crime. I don't want that to happen, but I can see how people resort to nefarious activities to try to feed themselves, to get ahead, to do things like that. I've seen a lot of things like you're a wise person. You can tell by the way you talk, the things that you shared, I hope people do better, but not a lot surprises me these days.
Yeah. That's what it's about, bro. We hope people do better, even if it's 1%.
Well, there it is, folks. Given from Amos's self. Now, Amos, tell us a little bit about where people can find you, where they can learn more about you at. You've got some interesting takes. We appreciate you joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. My personal Instagram accounts where I'm most active. It's at Eat Plants Move Often. And then my company page is at famousjuice.company. And then my hemp brand is MJ's Hemp. It's EMJAYZE Hemp. And then I have a podcast as well that's been dormant this year, but next year I plan on relaunching that. That'll be called the Eat Plants Move Often podcast. And then I also have a YouTube that I'll be more active on. And then I have a video coming out that kind of is a mini documentary of me attempting that 100-mile run. So that should be out in a couple weeks. And then the same film crew is going to come out next year when I go to get it finished. Ooh. And we'll have a redemption video. So definitely something to look forward to.
Nice. Well, you're doing a lot of good stuff, man. Congratulations. I'm glad that we can link up tonight. Follow Amos on all of those pages. Go back and check him out. Google him. Google us. Follow our pages. Like, comment, share. Tag somebody that needs to hear something that we said tonight. We want to inspire folks. We want to give you some good things on the internet. I think we're doing an okay job at that. Big shout out to Guyland Jackson producing all of these squeaky clean streams here at VodPod Media. Check us out, folks. We're coming up on our 100th show here at the Maximo Show. So thank you so much for all of our followers, all of our subscribers, all of our guests that have made it happen. We love y'all so much, folks. Thanks for another great night here at VodPod Media. We'll see you next week, folks. Same time. And much love to you. Happy holidays. We'll see you soon.